everybody, and welcome to the final volume of Skypiea in the One Piece Virgins Egghead Book Club podcast. We are covering volume 32 of One Piece, chapters 296 to 305, the final chapters of Skypiea and the opening three chapters of everybody's favorite arc, Long Ring, Long Land, and I love Tangent, and I love his stilts, and I love that fucking horse that looks like a giraffe, god damn it. And I also love a dancing snake named Nola. So many long animals to enjoy today. I am, of course, the captain of the measly crew, Mumkey D. Jones, joined as always by the bruiser beater co-captain you know and love. He now looks like Scopper Gabon thanks to the art contest. It's Aggie V. Rodriguez.
You thought that was a peace sign, folks? Oh, guess again.
It's a V sign.
That's right. But that's too schoolgirly. This is how we do it when you're cool. You give them the backhand at the same time.
No, we do it like a girl over here.
That's Misty when you beat her at the gym.
That's right.
This week when you go to the gym, I'm talking about this kind. Let's go. But yes, if you watched last week's episode, every second of it is obviously you did if you're listening to this now. Well, I was a little off by maybe a volume of my prediction last week. I said, all right, I'm thinking we're going to have a jam-packed, combat-rich, volume that's going to then lead to the sort of wind-down transitory volume. Well, this week, I'm just going to go right into it. It's not exactly my top of mind, but other than the obvious top of mind, it's definitely my second top of mind this week was that... Yeah, we didn't really get the slam dunk on fighting Eneru, so to speak. I mean, we resolved it. It was resolved, but it wasn't really 100% completion, if you dig what I'm saying, because that man, he still had his ship flying straight into the stratosphere after the combat between him and Luffy did transpire.
So in Aggie's opinion, did Eneru win?
He was nullified, and to be honest, I'm gonna say, as it stands, I feel like it's really just a stalemate. I mean, his attack was nullified, so he didn't get that once, like in the same way we didn't have the Straw Hats having this concrete victory over Eneru, he didn't have necessarily a concrete victory over the Sky people, both the Shandians and the Angel Island inhabitants, because they all survived, and in fact, even Pagaya, he's alive. I don't know, the whistleblower, I'm not so sure. I don't know if I've necessarily seen him, but
Captain McKinley survived his lightning bolt. Zoro should have died twice. He gets zapped a third time here after cutting the giant jack. This deadly god lightning cannot kill a single person, Aggie.
Wiper knocks out 3 rejectile blasts. Pretty much.
But he's built different. Wiper's he's a top tier powerhouse. No other character could do that, I think. He had the power of Shandorian history and Calgara's blood pumping through his veins. That's what gave him so much power. But to rewind, Luffy doesn't kill any of his enemies. He stops their evil plan, and then they fuck off and go do something else. So for you to be disappointed maybe that Eneru is still seeking out the Endless Vars, how's that any different from what Buggy is doing right now? You know?
That's a good point. But I kind of do feel like also it's like a power scaling thing, in my opinion, because I mean, this is somebody who has the proclamation of godhood. Somebody who, he's got like the ultimate devil fruit. I don't know if to be spoiler free, I haven't researched like the Paramythia class of devil fruit that gets mentioned. Like that's what Luffy has. I don't know if Buggy's devil fruit is greater or equal to, or possibly even lesser in tier status comparatively. But
do you want me to explain the 3 classes to you? Because it's not really a spoiler or anything.
I'll say yes, but I'll just finish one point. Yeah. But with the power scaling, like Buggy, I mean, what he was doing was wrong, for sure. Those people were being terrorized by him. But I mean, these still are just standard Blue Sea, feet on the ground pirates versus Eneru. We get his 200 million, the spoiler of the last volume, which appears to be a shapeshift entirely. It's just, I don't know, I feel like the stakes are higher, and I feel like we're going to need something stronger, which would maybe be death, but after a lot of survival on both sides of the coin as this volume concludes, I'm starting to feel a little less sure that death is going to be anything that we will be familiar with, unless you're one of the nameless Eneru whistleblowers. But all right, go ahead and lay it on us. What is up with these devil fruit tears?
Well, and perhaps if anybody did not run away from Angel Island in time, they were engulfed by that giant original black sphere and died. But again, nameless characters that we don't see, and just have to imagine that Eneru is capable of killing something. But the three types of devil fruits, so the best one that you want to have is what like Smoker and Eneru and Crocodile have, which is a Logia, which you get the power of like an element, and then you can transform into it at will. Ace, turns into fire. Then there's Zone, which is like what Chopper is. You can just turn into an animal. Whoever the new leader of Drum Kingdom, that guy, Dalton, he's a Zone. And then Paramythia, like Luffy, or Buggy, or Alvito with the slip fruit. It's just anything else. Just catch-all, blanket term, anything that's not an animal or an element is this. So, Logias are obviously the best because it's basically impossible to hit those people. But I don't know if Paramythia is necessarily better than Zone. I bet a lot of Zones could beat the shit out of some Paramythias.
Chopper, we haven't got to see him exhibit a lot of his combat form. I feel like even in this particular arc, the Skypiea saga all in general, we really just get a lot of his evasive maneuvers and then his specialties in medicine and things are really what are coming through here. So I do look forward to whenever that shows itself a bit further, so I can kind of get some more understanding of the natural unwinding of the story. But other than what I mentioned about, I kind of felt like maybe the Eneru combat was shorter than I originally anticipated. I'm sure we probably otherwise both have the exact same top of mind, and probably just as what anybody who would have read this volume would have.
Oh, well, let's hear the actual top of mind then. I'm curious to see if it's the same one.
Well, it would appear that, not to let people, I'm not going to jump right into it without any context. The Golden Bell, it was very significant last volume, and it is found and retrieved after it's rung by Luffy. Anyways, but skip ahead a little bit here. They're able to retrieve that Golden Bell and kind of get it situated back to how it once was. And there are Poneglyphs located on this bell, or on the base of it, rather. And we have something very interesting that's brought up about a weapon of sorts, but I personally, my top of mind was that this Poneglyph had a indentation,
carving
carved into it, struck into it. That being a notation from one Goldie Roger, not Gold Roger. This specifically indicates in the volume. Okay, we've been hearing about Gold Roger, but no, it is signed as Goldie Roger. Gonfall says, oh yeah, he was here like 20 years ago. Cool guy. And that monkey D. Luffy sure reminds me a lot of Goldie Roger. And I'm like,
As you're doing your brain blast, what are the thoughts that you're having here with this connection?
Well, I believe I mentioned on the last episode, you supposed that the Poneglyphs were going to be a major story element moving forward, and I was a little bit dismissive of that at the time. I'm like, well, I was feeling like that was not going to be the case, but I have reconsidered that stance for those two reasons that I kind of just went over there. Now that the Poneglyph, once again, we had back in Alabasta, the Pluton the location of it was supposed to have been indicated by a Poneglyph, and now we have the great weapon of Poseidon, another a little bit of a, we call that literary
something?
Allegory? Well, they both have P's. When they have different words that are all kind of like similar phonetically. I'm sure the audience knows what I'm talking about. But we have the
Poopy Doopy will let us know.
Poneglyph with Pluton and the Poneglyph about Poseidon. So okay, now I'm thinking to myself, all right, this is once again Poneglyph that is referencing a secret weapon of sorts, and then the fact that it's implied here, not just that Gold Roger had inscribed upon this, like the side Poneglyph, because there was two that are referred to, like one that's kind of on the front and then one that's on the side there of the base of the golden bell. But just the fact that this is once again something of that similar nature reference, and we're tying it into Gold Roger, who is, you know, the king of the pirates, the man who really got us started on the golden age of piracy. Those are very weighted things to me that make me feel like I'm going to reverse my stance, and I feel like Poneglyphs are going to begin, or throughout the story, having a more prominent place. And that's more P's. Lots of P's everywhere.
So that's the Eggy prediction of the week. Next arc, or at least next major saga, like Alabasta Saga, Skypiea Saga. Next major saga, we're finding another Poneglyph. That's right.
I think we're about to, you know...
It would make sense.
Car enter, you know, because that's a big part of it here towards the end of the volume. But
so I want to dissect the implications of this. So 20 years ago, so Luffy wasn't even born yet because he's only 17. Roger and his crew came to Skypiea and found this golden bell at the top of the giant jack that nobody has seen for 380 years. He reads the Poneglyph and then inscribes on it, "Hey, now that I have read this, its duty is fulfilled. Peace out. Love, Goldie Roger." So he can read the Poneglyph language, evidently, Eggy? Something that only Robin seemingly can do now?
Apparently can write something on it also, but I guess I don't...
You'd have to be able to read it to be able to write in the same language.
Exactly. To be, at least... fluent. I'm going to say he's probably fluent, but at least, you know, at an elementary level to be able to read and write at it. Well, you know, Robin, she's a very talented archaeologist, and that's her specialty. Yeah, I mean, I guess she's the only one that we've known of so far up until this point. It could just maybe that she's in an upper echelon of certain people with a certain sort of intellect, a certain sort of capability. Maybe it's going to be something similar to a devil fruit, where at a point in this story, devil fruits were very spectacular, and you know, now they're not quite so much. Maybe this is going to be sort of the opening to where we're going to be reaching a level of people who are so capable that Poneglyph readers are going to be not super unusual. They're still going to be maybe that crown jewel of their environment, whether that's an island or a crew, a town, whatever, in the same way that devil fruit users are still kind of like the captains of their crews, or the main antagonists, or protagonists rather, in Luffy's case. But so I could see that. I don't know if we necessarily have any inclination of that with anything we have in this volume, but at least we're getting a bit of more light, no pun intended, hashtag light of Shandora,
and as you discuss like power scaling intelligence, and then you say light, it makes me think of Death Note, and like, man, wouldn't that be cool if like Death Note level mind games were in One Piece and like characters were operating on that level? That'd be nice. Maybe one day Luffy will fight somebody with like a light Yagami intellect.
I could see I'm not familiar with Death Note other than the most obvious premise. I don't believe I ever watched it really, but I could certainly see maybe somebody having some kind of power where they could manifest based on like a text, perhaps.
It could be. Any other implications from this? Of course, Robin conveys the message to Wiper, hey, you guys don't have to fight anymore. Like, this Poneglyph served its purpose that your ancestors fought to protect it for so long ago. We don't really have a good context for this, and I feel like Robin is really jumping to a lot of conclusions here. Like, all we know is that it gives the location of the weapon Pluton, just like the one in Alabasta gave the location of Poseidon for this one and Pluton for the other. But Gold Roger's dead. Gold Roger is now dead. Whatever information he took from this and passed on or whatever, it does not seem to be relevant. I don't see the weapon Poseidon available. You know, like this still seems like information somebody might need. So I don't know how she jumped to that conclusion, but Wiper and everybody seemed pretty happy with it, so good enough for me.
Well, and I don't know if we have enough sort of corresponding information for this yet, but this is something that she mentions around the same time frame. Robin says, quote, I too have to guide the Poneglyph documents to the end of the Grand Line to Raftel, or whatever that's going to be pronounced as. And so I think to myself, well, I know that Gold Roger, he's dead. How he did? I think I know. I remember when we first entered the Grand Line that I think we were talking about some of the portions of it or something. Maybe there was a map that we were discussing. I'm a little bit fuzzy on it now, but it's possible that maybe, this could be like some of the pieces were put into play to a point. Damn, I'm saying a lot of pieces. I don't know. I'm just going to keep... it's going to... The alliteration or whatever the word is. It's gonna
At least there's no plosives in your microphone. That'd be a nightmare.
But yeah, moving... if these documents were gathered to a certain point, and then maybe if Gold Roger didn't quite fulfill it all the way, maybe that's going to be a big part moving forward, or eventually after a long time. But something that I thought was interesting about this, once again, also was... they were waiting 400 years for that bell to be rang, and Gold Roger, he was there 20 years ago to do this. Did they just not maybe think to ring the bell? Maybe they weren't familiar with Nolan's background or whatever, that it was something that was so desired and so wonderfully longed after by both the Skypiea residents and those in the Blue Sea that were just basically right beneath it, that could have had such an impact. Maybe we're going to find out that it was rang, and maybe people just weren't paying attention, and weren't as dialed in and focused.
Oh, you would have heard it, Aggie. They make it very clear. Everybody within 5 miles, as Usopp said, we're 5 miles in the air. They could hear it down in the Blue Sea. I remember what happened, and it will be a mystery for a long time, but just the idea of, like, why the fuck would Roger and his crew have gone up the giant jack in the middle of Upper Yard? Like, that must have been a horrible nightmare. Like, how did he know there was a Poneglyph up there? We do get an answer, but not for a long time, Aggie.
Well, I mean, I could still guess that, even without necessarily the Poneglyph being there, maybe there's going to be something down the line where it's like, he's been aware of the Poneglyphs, and he had like a grand knowledge, and maybe even there was Poneglyphs even preceding Alabasta that maybe, if we knew, then if we knew what he knew, but... other than that,
and doesn't Robin explain here that if you put all the Poneglyphs together, it weaves some sort of history, perhaps about this missing history that we were also teased about in this arc? So perhaps Gold Roger did collect and read all these Poneglyphs on his adventure and knows a lot of things we don't know.
It would certainly be helpful for those who are eventually looking for that One Piece, I suppose, that, if you have like all the little tips and tricks unlocked from your grand adventure, no pun intended, that maybe you could really get that One Piece hidden somewhere special that you would need all this preceding information to be able to understand. But... And
one other thing I want to say about the scene real quick with Robin is that all the Straw Hats have had kind of their goals and their arcs established right before they go into the Grand Line. The main 5 say, I'm going to be a brave warrior of the sea, greatest swords, blah, blah, blah. Chopper wants to cure any disease, but we haven't really had anything for Robin until this moment when she says, her new goal is, like you were saying, to guide all the Poneglyph documents to Raftel, which I believe was described by Crocus, the doctor, as being the last island on the Grand Line. So now she has a life goal, is just to accompany Luffy where he wants to go anyway.
Yeah, and as important as everything is, everybody's goals of the Straw Hat crew, I feel like there's a lot of, from my perspective, a lot of weight to that goal, because this is something that, as far as we know, other than Gold Roger, basically at this point, this is something that has just been speculated about for 400 years. And really just the Poneglyph in and of itself was only something that the Shandorans were seeking to protect. It wasn't like Nolan came to this El Dorado specifically for the Poneglyphs by any means. So it's just something that's so unique, so niche, maybe not in the grand scheme of things, because maybe it's going to end up being a necessary component of something much greater. But I just feel like that it's like you're playing a video game or something, and there's the super secret 99.9% completion item, like over there, you got to quick like duck off to the side and to get back onto the platform before everything explodes or whatever. It like just such a moment in time to be able to be there in that specific series of events, which obviously Oda has crafted to be this exact way, but still just the way that I'm reading it, I'm immersing myself, suspending disbelief and all that in the story. That is like, all right, we did the alley-oop, we nabbed this extremely important information, so now we're really locked in. We were kind of before, but now it's a sure thing, like we're going to take it all the way. But I was going to say just about Gold Roger having been there, we knew that he had made contact with Gonfall prior to this volume. I think it had been mentioned previously about Blue Sea Pirates that had not come up on the Emperor Cloud, but it had came up on this sort of like side streets or back alley sort of way to be able to reach
the peak of High West or something, maybe.
Right. So I would just suspect that probably that was referring to Gold Roger and his crew or whoever else was happening to be up there with him at that time, and maybe they weren't there. Obviously, Eneru was not the god at the time. They didn't probably have any extremely intense circumstances to where they needed to have themselves in any great combat. They probably were able to just get there, do some exploration, come up upon this through their intensive, not intense like everything's going crazy, everybody's gonna die, but just probably really doing their due diligence to research everything up there, and then finding themselves at the light of Shandor, the Great Golden Bell, and doing what they did and moving on in their journey. So just everything that I kind of had a little bit of my suspicions to begin with, I'm not going to lie. I did not know that this was going to be him at the Poneglyph at some point, but just the fact that Blue Sea Pirates were mentioned to have reached Skypiea, and it wasn't like Bellamy and these guys down here at Mocktown before that were small fries necessarily. They had some weight to them. Maybe they would have probably known if something was real to do with Skypiea, but the fact that this was so exclusive still, that this did exist, I had my inclinations that it was going to be somebody of a pretty high status, and Gold Roger was fitting that bill for me. So this is something I had in mind when it was coming up.
You did invoke the name of Bellamy, and this leaves us on a bit of a cliffhanger. Was Bellamy killed in this volume, Eggy?
Well, I know I just started out by saying that, nobody's ever going to die. But that looked pretty bad. Like
Sarquis, I think, chopped his head off.
It did look that way, and it sort of looked like, not to get too ahead of, to the end, towards the latter part of the volume here, but somebody who we got to see a while ago has just happened to show up over here in Mocktown. A good friend, Mr. Doflamingo, and he's doing some of this. He's doing like some of this, and all of a sudden people are dying, and that makes me go, ooh, I don't like that. That makes me think of like mind control, hypnosis, not like the Django way. This was like maybe not even hypnosis, but it didn't seem like Sarki. I call him Sarki, maybe it's Sarquis. It didn't seem like he was really in his mind when he was enacting that physical violence against Bellamy. It kind of seemed like this was sort of maybe puppeteering him in a way.
You got it right, Eggy. But that's a pretty good guess.
I might have seen that somewhere in some other series over my life, but I couldn't say exactly for sure right off the top of my head. But yeah, usually if they're either doing like this or they're doing like this, it's probably somebody getting puppeteered.
Some sort of psychic puppeteering, perhaps, who could say. Hopefully we get the answer soon from Doflamingo. Before we go through the volume a little more chronologically, should we discuss the Ace cover story that comes to an end, Aggie? Wow, most of the Ace cover story was the journey of increasing the quality of the coffee at the Marine headquarters. Like, that was the whole point, is that we might have overthought the bitter coffee last week, Aggie. We thought Ace was burning the beans. No, it just turns out perhaps this place always had bitter coffee, and now that they have Moda's milk, the coffee is saved. And that it was bad long before Ace showed up, I think, is the implication.
Yeah, I guess I could still maybe say that, just like what I was saying, the other parts, like the people at the round table were sweating, and this sort of inexplicable spontaneous combustion could have had something to do with Ace. Was that his in for delivering the coffee, was to, threaten everybody's lives in a fiery hellstorm? Frankly, I don't think any jury would convict a man. I mean, who wants to drink bad coffee? There's a reason why a cup of Starbucks costs like $15, and they have these weird Italian names. They're trying to gatekeep it, okay? They don't want anybody to just be able to drink this coffee.
Yeah, the last thing Starbucks wants is everybody drinking their coffee. They gotta gatekeep it. And I think it might have just been a series of flaming coincidences. And, I mean, Ace is the only man who can jump into a flaming ship to save somebody and the secret information, which perhaps had to do with Blackbeard. I mean, he says at the end of his cover story he got some, and he's, getting his fists ready for a fight as if he knows where he's going. Mm-hmm. And then I guess the whole reason he went to the Marine headquarters was just to deliver Moda's letter, which we did not know his motivation. So that was an interesting twist on it.
I mean, it was helpful, but it looks like he, did have information retrieved. We have him with the suitcase, the Marine suitcase in 296, which that could maybe just be some of his goods. But then we have him in the big 300. Oh my goodness, we really have crossed over, folks. I mean, damn, that's basically about a quarter of the entire series, and it's only taken us 32 weeks.
It's over a quarter for sure so far. Yeah.
Just to mention the cover story 300, the translation that I have particularly says successfully extracted information about Blackbeard. So I think that it was certainly good. I don't know exactly how the ship got rebuilt so quickly either, but in any case, good deal.
And let's see, can we predict what this information was? Because last we heard from Blackbeard, one of his men snuck into that high up government meeting trying to pitch Blackbeard as a new warlord. Is that the information? Hey, we're letting this dude into the warlords. So now he's even more untouchable than before, Ace. You're gonna have to go up against the government man now. Could that be it? Or maybe is it just where he is, which is a weird thing for the Navy to know?
Well, my uninformed, just very surface level bystander sort of guess would be that this is just going to be a profile about his information. Speaking,
but he was on the same crew as him, so wouldn't he already know all about him? And not attack a random doctor with the same name?
Speaking from real life, I have a background in law enforcement to a degree, at a point. I know how it is to build a case on somebody. I mean, you could have, first off, this is Blackbeard part, what were like the some of his offending things that we have registered. So we're going to have, logs of possible offenses. We're going to have logs of his locations. Where is he known to frequent? Maybe possibly somewhere where he was last seen, and something that could really be, maybe it was communicated from Marine to Marine. So we have a real certainty that he was definitely at this place at this time. Where some of his associates, is he known to use any aliases? What was his physical appearance? Did he have any great physical changes? Did he shave his head? Did he gain or lose a significant amount of weight since this particular offense was registered? Maybe he's got something we should be on the lookout for.
How many cherry pies did he eat in one sitting at Mocktown? It's important information. He gained a lot of weight from that.
That's right. So that's where my mind goes to, having a history a little bit in the detective field, to some of those things that could be helpful if you're trying to figure out where somebody is, or if they were involved in a certain instance. the Marines should be logging these things. They should be having time frames on this information. That's what I think would be helpful, and that's where my mind goes for what Ace might be looking for. But it could be something totally different. That's just where my mind goes to.
And of course, the final panel of the Ace cover story is a very epic hero shot of Ace standing in the forefront, and the entire background is a giant swastika. Of course, Ace's iconic swastika flag looks very epic in this image, I gotta say. As far as I could tell, this might be one of the last times we see a swastika. I feel like Whitebeard's insignia changes to a cross pretty soon, but maybe that was anime only. I don't know.
I certainly would not know either, but, as I approached Chapter 305 with that particular cover story, it just so happens that I think in the last 48 hours, there was a video of a certain rapper you might have heard about before. His name is Kanye West. He was he got some new jewelry, and let's just say he got a new diamond chain that happens to be exactly the same design as Ace's flag, so just without the skull.
I'm of the opinion, if you're stealing from hate mongers, then it's okay, right? Like, white people came up with the N-word. That's not something black people can claim ownership of. That was our word that we used on them. Now they use it, and we're not allowed to. That's how it should work. Why are we letting the Nazis have the swastika, huh? Oda had the right idea. Maybe people like Whitebeard and Ace want to use this cool symbol. Maybe Kanye West wants to have this cool symbol on his album cover and his shirt and his car. Why are we reserving all the coolest shit like the N-word and the swastika for the most hateful people? I think it's wrong. I think everybody should have it. As we learned in this volume, the Varse is strong and nobody deserves to own it. The same can be said for all symbols and words, okay? These are concepts bigger than human ownership.
Okay, that's true. What comes to mind for me is, I was in New York City within the last calendar year, and I was taking a cab through an Asian district in New York City, and they had, a cultural building that had sort of a design in the fencing, perhaps you might say. It was like a metal grating of sorts that was along the building. In the left, I'm talking counterclockwise, because clockwise, I think that's the really extra bad one, but this was like an Asian cultural historical building with a lot of the counterclockwise symbols on the side. So, this is something that's been a symbol of peace, of rebirth and reincarnation, or whatever, like time keeps going this way, even though we made it go this way now, maybe it was going this way before. Whatever the case is, yes, there's more to it.
And we've probably made this exact statement before, but the swastika is just like Pepe the Frog, right? It started off as this beautiful, innocent thing, and just because a few bad eggs, no pun intended, came in and ruined this beautiful... it's meant for all of humanity to enjoy, and we shouldn't let a small group of people ruin Pepe or the swastika. And I think we can all, as the Measly crew, agree with that. And my new flag is coming. So just...
And in the channel art, my character on his right arm has the Pepe the Frog tattoo, so it ties all together. And, speaking of rebirth and reincarnation, I don't want to get stuck on this too much, but also, as we were mentioning a bit earlier here, it seems like largely a lot of the characters that we get some level of significant information about, they seem to be a lot more resilient and less likely to die. So maybe they just really, their energy is coming back to them in a counterclockwise manner, helping them power up, who could say. And
I wonder if there's some cartoon logic of, like, when you die, they shock you back to life. So maybe killing somebody with lightning is very difficult in the One Piece world, because it literally brought Eneru back alive. Like, he shocked his own heart back to life. So maybe old man Pagaya getting shocked as a 88-year-old elderly man and getting hit by lightning and surviving. Maybe it reset his ticker like never before. It must have, because he was just fucking fine. He was just fucking fine. Do you want to hear
how Wiper is mentioned by Chopper, how he has multiple broken ribs as a result of his final rejectile impact, and he just wraps some bandages around his torso, and he's just up and moving around just fine. Either way, but yeah, go ahead and continue.
Even the long-necked horse, like, gets shot, and then Chopper's immediately like, he's just in the leg, he's fine. Like, at least let me have 1 week of thinking the horse is gonna die, jeez. But we had a lot of discussion last week about the Prime Directive from Star Trek, and the philosophy of why would you not interfere with a less civilized society and introduce them to great medical advancements and all these things. Poopy Doopy gave us the answer. The Prime Directive is often criticized by Star Trek fans as being an overly cruel and strict law. The Federation only introduces themselves to planets that develop faster than light travel. They believe that any race that does not create that technology is culturally inferior to their space alliance. If they introduce that technology to a lesser culture, then it is bound to backfire and have terrible consequences for the entire universe. There's an episode where it is stated that Starfleet has let 60 races die out rather than interfere with their fate. Starfleet is supposed to be operating on futuristic, non-emotional logic, but I think a culture tainted by aliens is better than extinction. I do not think I have ever seen a real-life person defend the Prime Directive as it is presented. Most Star Trek fans think it is a contrivance and should be rewritten to allow for common sense actions, like saving a planet from exploding and killing billions of people. So there you go. It's so logically unsound that nobody has ever agreed with it. We were right yet again.
You just say it like this, okay? I call it the Trek Savior Complex. They think, oh, listen, I'm a Star Trek man. I'm Captain Kirk, and I'm so much smarter than these stupid savages on this planet.
Well, no, but he's the guy who would go against it. He would say, this is bullshit. We have to interfere and help anyway, right?
Well, help. Listen, the colonizers, they thought they were helping. Oh, listen, you think that sticks and rocks are your god? Let me force you, let me shave your head, and you got to go to this school I built, and listen, I'm just gonna get you on this ship. I'm gonna take you away and bring you over here because you can't be living just banging these rocks together. My way of life is the right way of life, and you're gonna die over here of some disease or something like that. So just because Captain Kirk thinks he's the great Trek savior and he should do everything, I mean, obviously there's a lot of nuance here to really, obviously it's just the way of the world. Sometimes painful things happen.
You actually just might have changed my mind with that, Iggy, because if I think about, like, there's got to be an extremely happy young man who lives in an extremely poor African tribe, and his whole life is just about survival, hunting, gathering, very basic human shit, keeping his family safe, but he's excelling at it, and he's super happy, and he can't even imagine the shit, all the technology in the world. He does not care. He's content. And then us as Americans, what if we said, hey, no, you're not actually happy living in those huts and stuff. We're going to build skyscrapers and you're going to work an office job 40 hours a week. Do you think that guy's going to be happier doing that? Absolutely the fuck not.
And something that kind of hits a little closer to home for us, we enjoy this successful, accomplished food reviewer named Sunny Side with his Best Ever Food Review Show.
True
I believe
hero.
he had a couple of episodes over the years, like, introducing tribal people to like M&Ms
Yeah.
and Starburst. I mean, listen, they have their own cultural thing. They like this boiled root, and maybe it's got a sugary sweetness after you boil it. Like, this is the most delicious prime thing, like, this is something, it'd be like for us, like a bottle of $100,000 champagne. This root, you're going to eat this maybe once or twice in your life. It's the greatest thing. He walks over with this chemical, man-made, ultra-processed, artificial
Sour
dye.
Patch Kids and shit.
Listen, you're dumb, why would you're eating dirt out of the ground? Hey, we made this is way better. They did that once. They're developing diseases. This is actually a real thing. If you look into this, the Australoid people, the Aboriginals of the Australian continent, they subsisted in their particular way for thousands of years. You can look this up. They have documents from like the early 20th century. They're over there. Everybody's super muscular, perfect teeth, full heads of hair, all this stuff. They get over there and they say, why are you eating that? Here, eat this stuff that we made. The hair starts falling out, all their teeth, like a lot of them, their teeth fall out now and stuff. And it's similar in some ways to the indigenous peoples of the North American continent, the First Nations and so on, that they started drinking this liquor and it made them get kind of a little bit fat and balding. I don't know anybody like that, but I'm just saying.
It's almost like the Western
obviously-
world's food supply is full of poison, and that people living off the land might have a healthier diet than the rest of us. Could that be?
And all the number one selling diets in America are eat whole or organic food and don't eat processed stuff that we spend, we spent the last 200 years in the Industrial Revolution and all this stuff making it. All I'm saying is it's not always so cut and dry, folks, okay? Yes, if we knew that us not helping this planet was going to kill billions of people, that's very bad, but we might not always know best either with what we think is the right way to go about it. I'm just saying.
At the end of the day, they were only sacrificing the maidens to the giant snake. As a dude, I would rather watch that once a month than get a fucking injection. Are you kidding me? I have to get a vaccination from this European-looking fucking chestnut-haired freak? I don't think so. Let's do more human sacrifices. So I guess for some people it's good, for some people not so good. Just like everything.
All I'm saying is they've been doing that for like 10 million years and they're still going, so it is what it is.
Should we run through the rest of Skypiea chronologically before we throw it on our tier list, Aggie? Chapter 296, what stands out to me is there's a great meme-worthy moment where the giant snake, whose name is revealed to be Nola, and it was driving me crazy this whole arc. I was thinking, I know that snake has a name. Why the fuck can't I remember it? Why aren't they saying it? Oh, he was named after Nolan? Oh, that's right. Nolan killed the snake's grandpa, Kalgara killed his dad, and then he became best friends with both of them, and they named him after Nolan. That's so beautiful. But the snake is, he's kind of having this dream, and it's like that. Well, it's like those memes where they say, it's like the last decade was a nightmare, and they say, oh no, it's only 2015, come on, let's go. It's the exact same thing where the snake wakes up and he's small again, and teenage Seto from the flashback, he's like, ha ha ha, were you asleep? Skypiea? Eneru? That must have been some dream you were having, come on, let's go ring the bell. Obviously, I added a few extra words to that, but that was pretty much the quote. Very funny. And in his horrible nightmare, he's like this thrashing around, and he does help tilt the giant jack with that. So in a way, Oda is saying a centuries worth of trauma is necessary to help slightly get the everything fixed in the modern day.
Yeah, it's interesting. You might be familiar with this, but Nola is a slang, or I'll say slang term for the city of New Orleans, because it's New Orleans, Louisiana. NOLA, because LA is the state abbreviation for Louisiana. So Nola, I'm thinking like, okay, so this is like a Cajun snake, kind of a party snake, Mardi Gras snake. It's about that time of year.
He loves to dance and party with that bell.
So I was, I was kind of feeling that, but I also liked how maybe we had a concrete confirmation of this before, but I enjoy that. Really, we know 100% for sure now. There's no way to misinterpret that the basically the godson snake and Nola, as we know them now in the modern day, are one and the same. I think it was pretty heavily implied, but now we're just very certain. And also, I really enjoy that nobody else could quite get the giant jack to fall the way they needed. Zora sliced it. Usopp was shooting his explosives at him.
Completely useless Usopp. Yeah.
But
and then
they came through.
It takes Wiper with a third rejectile to knock it down. Let's see, what was it? Captain McKinley, like I said, he survived getting that huge blast. So just as we're building up to Luffy's final showdown with Eneru, and we just keep seeing evidence of how weak Eneru evidently is, it's kind of deflating the hype a little bit. But that's it is what it is. Like I said before, I'm starting to think even if Luffy was not rubber, he would still be able to win. Because this dude can't kill an old man.
Yeah, but largely I do agree, but just to make sure I get this quote, yes, the 200 million volts Amaru shape-shifting technique. I feel like Luffy's abilities did come in more handy there, because for all my World of Warcrafters out there, there's this panel here where following the transformation, he does this sort of forward jabbing strike at Luffy, and his structure is very similar to God Ragnaros from the Molten Core dungeon, which is like the first 40-man raid dungeon in World of Warcraft when it came out in 2005. He's got sort of this large swirling form, like it's all this sort of tempest base, and then sort of a more generally humanoid structure moving forward with the torso and the head and everything up above that. But I definitely got very strong Ragnaros vibes from that. And I think that, in my opinion, the rubber form there definitely was beneficial, even though he's got other issues that go on with the tridents and his the weight of his arm and everything. I think that, just my 2 cents, it was beneficial.
Do we think with enough prep time, Usopp could defeat 200 million volt Amaterasu with his rubber bands?
No.
He couldn't build some sort of rubber projectile to shoot him right in the heart?
I could not fathom at this point. I mean, he does good work. He's done...
And not in this arc, he didn't do a goddamn thing.
But any projectile versus a literal, like, thunder cloud...
But it's a rubber band! It's specifically made of rubber. It's the only thing that could hit him. And what if he took Wiper's Sea Stone and plugged it in? Bam,
okay,
bam.
That's true. I just thought of, though, I guess those giant rubber band balls that have been like in the Guinness Book of World Records. I guess if he could find a way to maybe utilize his projectile expertise to launch like the world's biggest rubber band ball.
Here's my strategy. Shoot the rubber band ball and then the sea stone immediately after. So time it. So when the ball is going through his body and halfway through, then he gets hit with the stone. Suddenly, normal human body, his heart has been replaced with a rubber band ball. It's over. He's dead. Usopp just beat Eneru. We're going to play the video game tonight, Eggy. I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to let you get the 200 million volt Amaru transformation for free while I play as Usopp, and we'll see. We will see.
I've been practicing, but I have been practicing and unlocking things on my own file and not practicing with the full unlocked file, so I have not been practicing Eneru, but, you know, I mean... Really, a lot of the combos are pretty similar. It's really just a lot of like L1 plus square, square, circle, and whatever. So I'm sure I could probably figure it out.
Real quick, I wanted to finish up with Nola the Snake here. Where does he rank on our favorite One Piece creatures? And I think the emotion of his whole story has him as number 1 for me.
I'm going to have to agree. You know, Chow Chow, very emotional, but really Chow Chow, even in the time frame that we're speaking on about him with the shopkeeper's absence and everything, nothing can compare. I don't think maybe ever. I'm sure something will eventually, but just a 400-year time frame. You know, being the seed of a god, even if you weren't necessarily a god, but as an animal that was godly in the eyes of the Shandorans. The personality that Nola exhibits, the part that Nola plays in the role of this story from hundreds of years prior up until the resolution that we have now, vacating Eneru from Skypiea. I think really there's just no animal that could compare, in my opinion.
And Eggy, I think there might be an argument to be made that Sherry, the long-necked horse, is a more tragic character than Chow Chow. Hear me out. Chow Chow might have lost his owner. He still had a whole village of people who loved him and came and visited him and pet him every day as he guards the store. He's not alone. This horse, he was so loyal to his owner. He was abandoned. Like, the whole civilization said, hey, we're nomads. We're leaving. We're not going to come back here for 27 years. Let's go, horse. That dude's gone. Horse said, fuck it. I'll stay here as long as it takes and wait for him. That's... Wait, he's choosing isolation, a decade of complete isolation, as opposed to a dog who's getting pets every day, treats. Come on.
That's true. I was trying to recall Karu as far as the most, up to this point, I think, involved animal in the story as far as
not being able to speak English.
Yeah, and being intertwined is sort of a story element, and I think I love Karu. I think Karu was possibly slightly more involved in the Alabasta arc for the appearances made and for actions taken that were so immediately beneficial. But I think once again, just with Nola and the time frame that we're considering, the backstory, and just the personality once again, and the power of this particular beast, I think Nola's gonna edge out Karu by just a bit for me.
And I would put both of them in S tier for sure. S tier characters, just in general, not even on their own animal list. Just in One Piece, they're S tier. I will say the scene of the Giant Jack falling over and Luffy and Nami on the waiver, it is, in my opinion, very cinematic and epic in the anime, and definitely worth watching. Like, just that specifically, not even the Eneru fight necessarily is as good. I just remember being very hyped with the music and the animation of the two of them going as that thing's collapsing down. So maybe we'll check that one out after I beat you as Usopp tonight. And then from there we have Luffy somehow jumping off the waiver with this giant golden ball weighing him down, and he's able to jump all the way up into this this black, he's calling it Kingdom Come now, the new black sphere of electricity that will destroy Skypiea. Does the science check out? Is Luffy throwing the gold conductor around gonna dissolve the whole thing, Iggy?
I guess when it comes to my scientific knowledge, I don't believe I'm particularly well versed in what happens if there's a giant condensed ball of lightning that's just gathering above a. But I think that it does sort of have a cyclical structure. Well, obviously it does, but it's like all the potential energy, I believe is what you would say, is contained within this structure. And as long as that's allowed to reach and make contact then with the White Sea, Upper Yard, and whatever it might most be, or have the most significant contact with, I think it's going to unleash that potential energy and bring that destruction. So by him severing it and sort of disrupting it with these strikes, I think that it reduces the overall potential energy by such a significant amount that it ends up sort of dissipating. It doesn't have enough in the chamber anymore to really deliver that lethal contact that it otherwise could. So I think it does check out, yes. And
as Luffy is doing this, we get all of the citizens of Skypiea. Like I've been saying, Iggy, there's no atheists in foxholes, and these folks are in the foxiest hole of them all. Not Foxy the pirate, we'll get to him, but this is a foxhole, and they are praying to literally any god that will listen. They no longer have a god Eneru to pray to. It's just any of them. Please, somebody save us. Very next panel is of Luffy. He has cleared the sky and made everything sunny again. We get a panel, folks. People praying, any god save me. Very next panel, Luffy in the air, making things sunny again. People think parts of One Piece were just pulled out of a fucking hat, out of the ether, and were not planned. These people I call in denial, Iggy.
Yeah, it's certainly been very impressive. I feel like, at least just from my perhaps a bit not as educated perspective. I mean, I've watched a fair amount of anime in my life. I've read a little bit less of manga, but the structure here, I would say it's very intentional. Is Luffy going to become a god form? I don't know anything about that, but
and is the message here, like I might have teased in previous volumes, the theme of don't waste our energy on gods that could be spent on humans. Why are they asking a god to save them when it's literally a human being who does it? Right? Like, don't ask imaginary things to help you. Humanity is here. We can help each other. And that's what Luffy does. He saves them.
I agree, but also if Eneru had been a positive force, he was able to sort of...
But even he was just a man. He's not like a literal god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he could still use the power that he did have to, basically pick up on everybody's thoughts and words and actions and everything like that. So if he had been a positive force, he'd be like, somebody would be like, just give me the quicksand. He'd be like, oh, I heard that over there.
And go help him. He could have been Superman, but he was not. Let's see, where do you want to go from here, Aggie? What's next?
Well, I just wanted to point out, I think one of my favorite panels of the volume in chapter 300 here, sort of following the expulsion of Eneru, and the idea, considering that that Angel Island is no more, and also the Shandoran's hidden cloud village is no more. The Shandorans and the other sky citizens deciding that they could, live in harmony under Gonfal's leadership, and they have like a big celebratory fire. Nola's singing and dancing. Really, everybody's singing and dancing. It's a huge party. And I really like the panel where there's like the big fire tornado and there's a lot of silhouettes of everybody dancing and the snake picture and everything. But really just that whole last maybe quarter or so of chapter 300, and also another particular panel which looks like Pagaya and a couple of Shandorans doing some kind of dance that's like this.
And Pagaya's like made his stomach look like his head. I wrote that down in my notes because that's the first time I ever noticed that. It's very funny what he did to his big belly.
So just a very joyous thing. Everybody, the commies, I think maybe all the commies' vassals are. They seem to be as dead as possible anyway. They're all knocked out and covered in blood, in pools of blood. So they might really be dead. But everybody just being in a positive thing, and kind of like how I might have mentioned before that once I was hoping for at the conclusion of the most intense part of this saga that there would be some sort of relieving portion, and it maybe isn't exactly what I was thinking, since they do get on to the Long Island pretty quickly. It doesn't take more than a couple of chapters.
Couple sea monkey chases in between.
Right. But this was definitely a relieving sort of a wrap-up, even though that it also still isn't exactly the complete end of the them being in Skypiea either, with the hot octopus balloon, or however they refer to it. But it was just a pleasant thing, and I really enjoyed that panel particularly.
We do get an answer to some of the philosophical questions we've been grappling with, Eggy, of who gets to live on this land at the end of the day, because all these different groups of people can claim ownership of it. And I thought it was interesting. Before we get the answer, we have Robin talking about how Luffy is a romantic, and he wants to pursue things like that are ideologically correct, even though in practice it might seem impossible, but he makes the impossible possible because he's a miracle maker. And right after we hear about this sort of romanticized, idealized version of what things could be, Gonfor gives us the answer to this question. Vars is truly miraculous. We never had the right to claim ownership of it. And I think that's Oda's way of saying, hey, Oda, I'm a romantic too. And I think no land should be owned by a human. Humanity has no domain over the earth. Like, it should just be for everybody. Now, in practice, that would never work. It's never going to ever happen in the history of humanity. We will kill each other for the land before we all share it. But that's not what One Piece is about. It's not about what's actually possible. It's showing us the impossible and how beautiful it could be. So that's the answer. Sorry, Israel and Palestine. Maybe you guys have to share that fucking strip of land, you motherfuckers. Stop killing each other.
So maybe there might be some very orange Gonfall that goes over there. Maybe with some ramen.
That might be Eneru, dude. Like that's the whole point. An ancient conflict, and then 6 years, ago, Eneru shows up and becomes the new god and overtakes both of them. Like, that's what Trump's gonna be after thousands or hundreds of years or whatever the fuck of this conflict. I mean, technically like 70. God Eneru Trump is gonna come in and just take over the whole thing.
Instead of Kingdom Come, it's gonna be just a bunch of gold statues of himself falling out of the sky.
Yeah, crushing people. Well, at least he's bringing some money to the land in some way. Bringing capitalism to Israel as if they don't have enough of that going on over there. Okay, so we got that philosophical answer. We got Eneru getting his ass beat, but then I guess his ambition to kill everybody was struck down. But Eggy, he's traveling in the Maxim. Did you see this coming? To the moon, Eggy! to the moon! That was the endless verse all along, Eggy. The fucking moon can even breathe in space.
I don't think I've ever seen lightning be able to. I don't know all the physics of how lightning works in space. I mean, they have like shooting stars or something, so maybe it works out there. But I guess it was just to backtrack just a smidge. I remember last volume, maybe possibly even the volume before, I was saying, well, this is endless verse. Maybe they're going to need as much room as possible. I was thinking that, the Shandorans and the Angel Island inhabitants would really have to, it would be better off really separating themselves as much as possible. So them unifying as much as possible on a smaller piece of land was not what I had in the cards, excuse me, but was, overall more heartwarming, I think. But yeah, flying an arc powered by electricity into space. I just don't know if I'm that educated on space travel, but I feel like that's not how I've seen it done before. And yeah, I don't know how good you can be breathing up there. I'm gonna guess they have the devil fruits can help them out somehow. Maybe that was an oversight on the part of the devil fruit creator. Like, oh yeah, you can't go into the ocean because you'll drown. So they're just gonna go into outer space. Maybe that's something that happens eventually to moon bases. But I had to kind of do a double take because I thought he was flying into the sun at first. It's like, no, he said it glows at night.
Yeah, that'd be pretty bad. It goes full Icarus mode on him.
I mean, I guess it's a lot of land comparatively that's uninhabited as far
the
as
sun?
We know, so.
The sun?
No, the moon. I don't think, not at least as allegedly people have landed on the moon before. I don't think anybody's going to be able to handle the sun except Ace, maybe that could be Ace's endless farce. But
now, Eggy, would it shock you to hear that just based on this one panel of Eneru going to the moon, there are many theories out there that the One Piece is on the moon and that eventually the Straw Hats will travel to space? The final frontier, as some might say.
Well, I think that's a lot to base off a single, couple of panels.
Just the concept that somebody can go to the moon is introduced. And, if you're going to hide a treasure, that's one place nobody's going to find it.
I'm not going to ask for any spoilers, but once again...
There is no spoiler to give!
I mean, if we're just basing this off of the fact that the arc is pointed towards the moon and he's saying that, I don't feel like there's enough there to even say that he could have even made it there. So maybe there's going to be a cover story or something one day where he's walking around the moon or something. I don't know. But I feel like with what it has right now, I wouldn't even give credence to that he would even make it there.
You think we'll never see Eneru again? This is the last of it, maybe?
I could see him, like I said, either in a cover story or maybe he's somewhere else, but him being on the moon, I would not think to myself that he's going to successfully make it land and be walking around just off of those two panels. So until I get something further, maybe in the future, I personally would not base anything being on the moon just off those two panels.
You did mention cover stories, and I forgot to do a prediction segment now that Ace's story is over. Who do you want to see next? And, maybe if that's different, who do you think is going to be next?
Well, I guess... I haven't been thinking. I kind of was surprised that Ace did end here. I felt like it could have gone on for another couple volumes.
Yeah, I thought that the Marine arc would be a little subsection, but no, it's kind of just the whole thing.
So with that being the case, I'd almost feel like Blackbeard might be coming back up in the main story then here within the next couple of volumes, because almost okay, well, we got this. We're gonna resolve the cover story here because we can't have Ace out here looking for Blackbeard, or even Ace, for instance, could one of those, and then especially since we have Doflamingo here in the end of this volume, and maybe there's going to be some more workings with the High Council, the Warlords, and things. There could be some more of that coming up maybe in the future. Well, I guess Buggy could be due again. He's kind of
gets
been
another
out there.
one.
Buggy or Smoker, maybe. Just people that we know are on the move, but they're maybe just not really tied in right now for anything too significant. Well, I guess otherwise I would say probably my most actual realistic upcoming prediction would be sort of like a slice of life about the Shandorans and the Angel Island inhabitants together on Upper Yard. Maybe like a little bit of just a silly little thing, like how a lot of these cover stories have been, just like maybe a little predicament that gets resolved through some panels. Ace could be maybe not considered that because he does have a long-term directive that he's just really just accomplishing more or less in this cover story, but I guess that's what comes to mind for me as the most likely off the top of my head would be some Skypiea antics.
Okay. Cannot confirm nor deny, Eggy, but I will bring up, we almost missed this, my favorite panel of the entire volume, Eggy. Can you guess? Do you have any in mind?
I remember laughing out loud at something here in the last, third of the volume, but I can't remember off the top of my head right now what it was.
Well, my favorite is, and this, I love how he set this up at the very beginning of the Jaya arc. We've got these giant silhouettes in the sky. It looked like a giant soldier monster. Like, what could that be? Turns out the whole time it's just a projection. It's just a normal-sized dude getting his silhouette projected through the clouds. And that shot of Cricket, he sees the giant Luffy in the air celebrating having killed Eneru and well, I guess defeated Eneru and rang the bell with one solid golden rifle punch. I love that panel of him and the monkeys looking up at the giant Luffy.
Yeah, I'm glad after it was all said and done, we really did get that all tied back together, because why was Holly so giant? Things up in the upper Vars, they just grow giant like that, or upper yard rather. That's just how they get down. They just grow big. So Holly was big for that reason. And who were the giant? And it was just some regular old Shandorans leaving silhouettes. That's right.
And Cricket, his life's curse has been resolved now, and him and the monkeys are ready to embark on a new adventure. Maybe that'll be a cover story. I would like to see what Cricket and the monkeys are up to now that they don't have to deep sea dive for shit that's not there anymore.
That is a very good point, actually. Yeah, I think probably they would. Well, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. It probably would be just as good of a selection, I think, as far as what they could be getting up to. Just considering that the Shandorans and the Sky People are kind of starting a new life themselves as well, in the same way that Cricket and the Monkey Scavengers are kind of on a new chapter. So I think they both have enough of an equal percentage of who it could be. But that was something I had not considered, and I think you're absolutely right.
I've got to go on a Sanji rant here. Chapter 300, there's a Sanji moment that I think is breaking his character a lot. So we got Wiper, he's all fucked up. He just did his third reject. Chopper is working on him. And motherfucking Sanji says, that's a gorilla, we don't need to help him. Now you may recall, Sanji's the character who gave food to Don Krieg, gave food to Gin. His whole character is, if a man is hungry, I will feed him no matter what. Chopper's a doctor. His creed is, I will heal somebody no matter what. Do no harm. That's what doctors do. They heal and then ask questions later. They have this connection of food and healing that should bond the two of them. But Sanji is saying, don't help that man who's in need. Are you fucking kidding me? Why did you give Don Krieg food, you piece of shit?
He learned his lesson.
Evidently. Jesus. You just watched him help you. What do you mean he doesn't need help?
Literally a life-sacrificing reject dial attack.
Yes!
Just to be able to help Luffy get to the bell to ring it and benefit everybody and expel Eneru. I thought, to be honest, just all things considered, that chapter 301, it seemed a bit out of character, almost like it was a little bit of a plot device kind of chapter, with all the Straw Hats just running away from the everybody, all the angels and the Shandorans, don't everybody be quiet, we're gonna go start stealing all this gold, we're gonna climb inside of Nola while they're asleep and into their stomach and start stealing all the gold. Meanwhile, Robin's out there like orchestrating, like, oh, everybody's like, oh, they were so helpful to us. We have this like £1 million gold, which I don't know how they were gonna ever fit this giant gold support beam. It looked enormous.
Yeah.
Like, how are they gonna fit this on the ship? To be honest, I'm just gonna keep it real. But at the same time, just the character that's exhibited here, this is somebody who, like the whole crew. They're always like they have this warmness and like this character that's very meshing in a friendly way with the populace, and just for them to be like up in the night and be like, all right, let's go start stealing stuff and let's get out of here without saying anything to anybody. It all got set up kind of like correctly for that transitory reason, like from Skypiea to back to the Blue Sea and moving forward. But I did feel like that attitude was a little bit standoffish compared to what I was used to.
I think from their perspective, like they don't really have like the deep lore and history of this land and its people, and they were not even there to be heroes and save everybody. Like Luffy just wanted to ring the bell, and Eneru was in the way. Like that's literally how that ended up happening. He literally rang it through him. So it's not like they did this just party with all these people, but at the end of the day, they consider themselves pirates, and I feel like Luffy's more playing pirate than being a real pirate, because he thinks it'd be fun for them to sneak off in the night and steal the gold, which is inside of a giant snake, so they're not really stealing it from anybody. And
that's true. Like
the hilarious irony of they're running away with stolen treasure while the natives try to give them like $1 billion of gold for free. It is funny and almost upsetting. Like, no, go back! It reminds me of the episode of Codename Kids Next Door, where like the slushy man or somebody kidnaps Nigel Uno, and he's making him try out all the slushy flavors, and then the Codename Kids Next Door, they come in and they save Nigel from being kidnapped, but Nigel doesn't want to be saved. He's like, no, that was the perfect flavor, I have to tell him. And like he's being saved by his friend, so he can't. It's like, no, let him go back, let him tell him, please. It's so frustrating to my autistic child mind, and that's kind of what this is. But at least this is a funny setup of they could have been way, way more rich, and they didn't. Even if it is kind of out of character, because I don't know if Luffy ever, again, is interested in stealing treasure from anybody.
And also to be fair, you kind of touched on it that it was inside the snake. The Shandorans wouldn't have any idea. Like, they're not going inside the snake. Yeah. Like, all these guys, they had been in there to see it, so maybe it's really just why have maybe the Kira and Nola's indigestion on it. The snake's gonna shit out a bunch of like messed up treasure,
and maybe they don't even comprehend that the Shandorans don't care about gold. Like, they gave all their gold to Nolan for free. Like, they only wanted to protect the Poneglyph, and they even say like gold is way more valuable on the Blue Sea. We don't care about this shit.
Right. And then I'll also just stick on, I previously mentioned, but like the size of this support for the bell, like when they're like, oh, we should wrap it in cloth, like just the scale of like how like an entire human being is like 1% of the size at most of this thing. Like, yeah, how the fuck are they gonna load that up on the ship and then drop out of the sky?
Yeah,
like, they had enough trouble with the octopus dropping them like 10 feet in the air down to the water. Like, if they had it's like 10 tons of gold on there, they're all gonna scream down and die.
Yeah, even if Zoro chopped it up into pieces for him or something, that octopus is not floating. That's gonna increase the size of the whole ship by like tenfold. So yeah, it is what it is. They got some gold. Do you have any predictions? How are they going to spend all this gold? They have a bunch of ideas. Chopper wants books. I think Sanji wanted a giant mouse trap for some reason. They want to do some repairs on the ship.
I kind of felt like the way that I was reading it, the ship was definitely going to be the top priority. So, and I think that what I would predict is it's kind of just like real life. Okay, just hear me out here. So they have all this treasure, and they have such a mind that this could be worth such an extreme amount. Could really just do so many things for them. I'm gonna presume that once they're able to find an avenue for them to redeem this treasure for berries, that they're gonna get lowballed and have no other offers to accept. We got priceless 100-year-old gold treasure. The best I could do is how much exactly do you need to fix the ship, and maybe give it some enhancements, and then maybe like one beneficial upgrade for each character. Yeah, I think I have exactly that much for all this, like, treasure that you wouldn't possibly know the value of, but it's definitely worth more than what I'm giving you. That would be my prediction, because I think that would be a realistic depiction. Like, oh, this could be worth this much, but I'll give you just exactly as much as what's going to get you to where you need to be.
Yeah, it's not like you have to be a fair businessman with literal pirates. You know, it's like being a drug dealer on the black market. Like, what I got's what I got, motherfucker. You're gonna report me to the BBB? So you may be right. Maybe they get scammed out of some money. Maybe that causes a conflict on its own, and they beat up the merchant who can say, is that the end of Skypiea? Let's see. We have, they go to Cloud's End, and just like back in the Trial of the Forest, we have just a dead end, and then like everybody's eyes pop out of their head, and even the Going Merry had its mouth wide open and its eyeballs above it as they fall straight down. And then, of course, the octopus balloon. I don't know how he's getting back up in the air. I guess he's just stuck down here now.
Yeah, because once they do land it, he deflates to a regular sized octopus. I think it's thrown back in the water. And they're like, oh, here you go. And completely new like a whole new ecosystem that you have no familiarity with.
Maybe he can inflate with helium and go back up to the cloud, because otherwise that's very sad. He had to sacrifice his whole lifestyle just to help these people, just because a whistle told him to. I don't know if I would obey that.
Let's see. How often do the Emperor Clouds go again? Maybe you can go hitch on the next one. Those animals like that, they can kind of like feel water pressure and stuff, right? So you could probably go find the next.
Oh, the knock-up stream?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could probably like feel the tide changing or something and go towards it.
The Southbird jumps on at the last moment to be carried back down, and then we don't really see him again, so I guess he just fucks off. But, like, you're a bird. Can't he just fly back down? Why does he need to be on the ship?
Because he loves the Straw Hats, because he was the one, it was such an ordeal for them to capture him on Jaya that they had, they just built this bond. It's like, in the same way how Zoro would respect a fellow swordsman who was extremely talented. He's like, oh, you guys got me, I don't want to just be left up here. I want to, if you guys are going back down, I'm going to go back down with you. Then also I'm just going to completely disappear. But
he just doesn't want to be there without them. It's not cool enough without the Straw Hats. That's fair. All the other Southbirds are too fucking big up in the sky. You can't fuck any of them.
The manlet Southbird, he's getting mogged.
Okay, Eggy, it is time to put Skypiea on our tier list of One Piece arcs. And I did tease before. I was thinking, do we got to make a new tier, SS, because this is just such high quality. But I'm going to walk that back. I think it could stay on the list as it exists, but we'll let you go, Aggie. Where is this one going to land for you?
It's the creme de la creme. This is just the gravity of the situation, like combat-wise. It's at least equivalent to Alabasta as far as like how many people are involved. But then the fact that we have the historical aspect of it, the mythological aspect of it, the godly aspect of it, and the lore, I feel like, is deeper and richer than what we got from Alabasta, at least to some degree. So, with that being said, the combat, I think that maybe Alabasta had a little bit more weight on the combat, but I liked the trials with the vassals. I liked it certainly wasn't lacking, and I think those other aspects that I mentioned still push it above Alabasta for me. So I think I'm gonna really have to say numero uno, Skypiea, top of S for me.
Yeah, I think in terms of the epic narrative and history behind the storytelling is what really hit me here. The fighting is definitely worse. Like, I'll take all of the Alabasta Baroque Works fights over any of these. Like, the fight when Zoro goes up against the gorilla for 2 chapters, you could just cut that shit out. Who cares? He's hanging out with Wiper at the end anyway. Like, Zoro didn't even hurt this dude. So, fuck all the fights. I'm just here for the great story and the backstory in particular. And the reason why I didn't think it necessary to make an SS tier, shout out to Oda, is because the opening act, perhaps, of Skypiea, I don't dislike it on any level, but I don't think it's consistently SS tier as it is perhaps in the Nolan flashback. Like the opening is maybe, it's lower entertainment value. I actually think the opening 3 chapters of Long Ring Long Land are more interesting to me than the chapters meeting Conus on the beach. I would say Tangent, as like a citizen who the Straw Hats meet, he's top tier for me. I like him better than any citizen of Skypiea. Wiper and Eneru and them not included, of course, but S tier, best arc in One Piece so far. We both have Skypiea and Alabasta S tier, and then everything else lower. So we did it, Eggy.
Woo! What an adventure, I tell you. You know, like I feel like I'm landing down in the blue sea myself.
Now, there is something people wanted us to watch. There's an anime-exclusive filler arc that takes place between Skypiea and Long Ring Long Land, where the octopus balloon lands the Straw Hats within the walls of a Navy base called G8. And then it's like a 8 to 10 episode filler arc of them like going, much like Ace did, like going undercover as Marines and stuff. It's not canon, it's not relevant to anything at all. But it's regarded, not just by One Piece fans, but by the greater anime community as being one of the greatest filler arcs in anime history. It was originally going to be a One Piece movie that they said, there's so much meat on this bone, let's just make it in the anime and it'll be longer. So people wanted us to watch and review that. I said, fuck no, because it's the One Piece book club and we don't do anime and we don't do filler. But if you ever want to watch it just for fun, Eggy, G8, it actually is very good. And the villain he's better than a lot of canon One Piece villains. I really like it, but we don't need to review it here. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Well, if I happen to watch it throughout the next week, maybe I'll give a couple minutes to touch it on it a little bit on our next episode.
That sounds fair. We're going along on this one. I have my typical coffee pee, but we have 3 chapters of Long Ring Long Land to get to. So Eggy, what do you think of this new arc so far? You wanted something a little more, what did you say? A little more jovial.
Something that without so much of the weight on. It's kind of like how you were talking about Croesus before, where he's talking about Raftel. Just even something like that, like a nice little just intermediate or
something lighter after fighting God and saving an entire country. So you wanted something lighter, and then we have like a guy shooting a horse. So it's still kind of fucked up and sad.
My first immediate impression, so we have that like one single we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, where Doflamingo, he lands at Mocktown, and Bellamy appears to be executed by Sarki, and he's talking about the new age of the pirates is here. You need to be the most incredibly strong, and strength will rule all. We don't get, I feel like, a lot of other context there, other than like he's showing up and they're like, holy shit, why is Doflamingo here? He's like a warlord, and why is he like watching, or like appears to be puppeteering Bellamy's execution?
And is he killing Bellamy for losing to Luffy? Like you're using my symbol of like the thing through the smiling face, and you tarnished it by losing. So now your punishment as a weak man is I'm going to have you, I guess, cut in half by your own friend. So we're building up this rivalry of Doflamingo and Luffy already. Like, the man who beat my underling that I had to kill, I'm gonna have to go fight him someday.
It certainly would appear that way, yeah.
Are you sad at the loss of Bellamy? Didn't he have so much potential as a springy man? He could spring back.
Well, I think I would have liked to maybe have a little bit more fleshing out, where he would have been like, oh, I guess really there was something in the sky after all. Maybe I should really think about that a little more. But it was more like, Doflamingo's like, pathetic weakling, die.
Is there some irony to like the whole the Nolan and Kalgara dying not knowing the truth about the other? Is it poetic for Bellamy to die not knowing the truth about Sky Island? Did he not hear the bell ringing? Didn't that shit just happen? They didn't see the giant Luffy?
They might have had a panel where like they were reacting to it, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a lot of reactions to the bell.
But
It's like half a chapter.
since he's a pathetic weakling and his life is now ended, he's beheaded in the street in front of all of Marktown by his own associate. Well, I guess it is what it is.
Wong. And then at the end of chapter 303, we're told Admiral Aokiji is the greatest power in the Navy, and he's on the hunt for Luffy, it looks like. He's got Luffy's bounty poster. And Eggy, he's riding his bike on the ocean. Did you see this? He's riding his bike just alongside a dolphin at the end of 303. What is this motherfucker doing?
That is awfully bizarre.
A devil fruit user cannot, you would sink into the ocean. So how is he riding his bike on it? What the hell?
I don't know if we have. Well, you know, it could be I guess it could be a dial, but I don't think that would be very sensible. Maybe like in the same way that a waiver could be ridden on the water. Maybe this has some sort of similar technology. But what I thought was very interesting here when they mentioned that is as he's looking at Luffy's wanted poster, he says, "Not an honest fellow in the whole family."
Do we think he might know some other of Luffy's family members? Maybe one that works in the Marines along with him. He thinks that he's dishonest, huh?
I might have seen, let's say, a live action rendition of this series that might have indicated that maybe that there was a Marine that is possibly having relations to Monkey D. Luffy. But
so we're being told here by the elderly, in charge of the Marines, that it was the Gorosei talking about Aokiji here. He's the most powerful of the Navy, the greatest power we have. And he seems to have a grudge against Luffy's family, and he's hunting down Luffy. And that's in the opening chapter of this Long Ring, Long Land arc. So do we think that this conflict with Foxy is going to lead into the most powerful Marine showing up? Or is this just setting us up for maybe a future arc?
I would like to think that it's going to be something more in the future, because just what we get off of when Foxy appears here towards the end of chapter 305, bounty-wise, he is considered more insignificant than the Straw Hats. And he mentioned something that I was a little sad to see. It seems to be only One Piece exclusive, but let me see if I can get the direct quote from Foxy here. "We, the Foxy Pirates, challenge you, the Straw Hat Pirates, to a 3-coin Davy back fight run by orthodox rules. I was hoping this was something like Pachinko, that it was like a legitimate Japanese gambling experience so that I could gamble in this way. So I Googled 3-coin Davy back."
Oh, Eggy, you can't Google shit from One Piece.
Well, I'll just say I didn't read any of the results because it was immediately apparent to me when it was all One Piece Reddit results.
Yes.
And it was not a legitimate something I could gamble on. So that's all. I didn't actually read any of the results for the record.
Well, what if would you be shocked to learn that perhaps you've already participated in the elements of a Davy Bag fight in a certain video game? Maybe some of those mini games we played might come into the story.
You're going to walk into a giant glowing bomb and it's going to bomb the people that are at the opposite end of the field from you?
I'm not going to say no.
Well, actually, I guess another thing, now that you mention it, when you break the barrels and it's got those coins inside that charge your super meter, that would be the only other thing I could think of.
Well, I mean, wasn't there one when you have to like throw the enemy into a goal, or like a boat race one? Or
I forget. Maybe.
Well, I guess we'll find out next week. I thought we evaluated the mini games on that stream, but maybe we only played Duck.
Well, let's see. I played the Snow Shovel, Box Crusher, Duck Race, Rumble Battle. I think there was a couple other, or the Snake Fight. I never did that one, I don't think.
Yeah, maybe Rumble Battle is one of them. But we'll get to that next week, of course. We got a little bit with Tangent. This man who spent a full decade up on stilts, bamboo stilts that kept growing, and he was too scared to come down. And he had his heroic horse companion wait that whole decade through the snow for him. What do you think of this? So he's sleeping and eating on stilts for 10 years. Eggy, is this too far beyond what can be comprehended as a human? Did they go too far in a few places with this character?
Well, I mean, fruits. I just don't know if there would be enough immediately accessible fruit. I would imagine you'd have to be walking on the stilts to some extent because I just don't feel like there are going to be that many trees bearing enough fruit like directly in his radius to where he could reach. It's going to have enough water in the fruits, I think, at least you could imagine so, that it would hydrate him sufficiently and give him enough calories and everything to survive, especially since he's not going to be moving too much. It is a bit fantastical, but really the whole entire island is a bit fantastical. One of the first things that I laughed at was the Dashu.
Yeah, the long dog. Yeah.
There's an inside joke I have with a couple of guys I went to high school with. When we were in high school, the game Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Oblivion came out, and we were modifying the game as you have to do with every single Bethesda game because otherwise it sucks. And we had a glitch where there was like a dog or a wolf or something, and it got hit in one of the towns, and the texture of the dog, due to whatever glitch that we had invoked upon the game through our manipulation of the files, began to stretch across the entire world. So we developed this inside joke called Oblivion Dog because the dog got hit by something, and the texture of the dog just began to there was like a memory leak or something, so the texture of the dog it just like filled up like the entire world and stretched out infinitely. So anytime there's like a ragdoll in like a Half-Life game or anything like that, to where like the ragdoll gets all goofed up and starts like going all over the place, we call it Oblivion Dog. So when I saw this giant stretched out dog, I was like, oh.
When I saw it, I thought, man, whoever made Adventure Time, they literally traced this long dog for Jake the dog because he has the same fucking ability and it looks identical. Identical. So stop eating One Piece's lunch, Adventure Time. Try to be original a little bit, please. It is weird that this is almost like Luffy land. Like everything can stretch like Luffy does. It makes you wonder if like something happened like 1,000 years ago with Luffy's devil fruit to affect this entire island. Because it's very strange that everything that lives here would stretch out like that.
Somebody accidentally juiced a gum fruit into the water supply. Everybody got a little gum.
Yeah, like if objects can eat a fruit, like did this island accidentally eat the gum fruit one day and then somehow die so that the fruit moves on to somebody else? I don't know, but it's very strange that everybody's long like Luffy. Except for that one animal, I think the snow leopard was wide instead of long, which I'd forgotten that joke as well. It's very stupid. I like when they show up and they're looking around. Luffy just lets himself into the house, like doesn't knock. It doesn't, it all worked out for Tangent though. And then Tangent wants to share some of his milk with them, even though he hasn't been home in 10 years. And he eats some of it himself. He's like, you young whippersnappers got these weak stomachs. And the next panel, he's got food poisoning. I love Tangent. He's fucking great. What dude his dream is to be on the tallest stilts in the world. He gets abandoned by his entire tribe. And then he's like, I guess I'll wait another 20 years for them to come back. Very lackadaisical attitude about his entire existence. But he's following dreams of breaking world records. He's not afraid to eat 10-year expired milk. And he has a horse companion that is like sacrificed its existence just to be with him. So he's got to be a good guy.
I think what I like most about Tangent here in 305 is he just has this like very rugged, like weathered, just he kind of looks like a homeless guy who's just been like living in a box for like 30 years. Of course he's been up in there for 10 years, so he's gonna look like this. But just the contrast of everything, like the island seems the atmosphere of it is very peaceful and very cartoonish, just with all everything being stretched out, whether it's the animals or the trees and everything. Everything just is so kind of cartoonish and whimsical, and then he just is like so weathered and dirty and beaten and been in the sky.
It's bloody when he crashes down to the ground.
Mm-hmm. So a really good contrast there. I think it's works well to kind of, he's obviously suffered a lot, and hopefully he's going to be able to get back to at least enjoying the whimsical aspects of the island as he waits for the next very many years for his. No man, I don't know. He looks kind of old. He might not make it. I don't know about that. But
well, prediction, Eggy. By the end of the arc, will Luffy and the crew help Tangent reunite with his family? They say they ask him, like, why don't you just sail there? And he says, well, we're not sailors, and two, it's all the same island, so the eternal, or like the whatever the pose is called, log pose is not gonna point you in the right way. Like, it's basically impossible. Which, in my mind, like, at what point can you just explore? Okay, we don't need this fucking compass to point us everywhere. We know it's all right here in a fucking ring. How hard could it be to find the next one and the next one? Like, Jesus.
Exactly. I could see like. There's got to be some sort of, with everything being connected like that. It'd be one thing if it was a different island, totally somewhere else, but I feel like the inherent connection of the geological structure, combined with the fact that they have a ship and, professional navigation abilities, I think that they could make it work. Because, they just go to, 3 leaps forward if they changed every few years.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long yet.
So I think they have what it takes to be able to reunite them, absolutely.
When Tangent first meets them after crashing down to Earth when Luffy breaks his bamboo, he wants to be polite even though he thinks he doesn't recognize the people. So he's like, he's pretending he knows them even though he doesn't. And somebody asks, do you know this old man? Luffy says, not me. Chopper says, and I think this might be a translation error, nor me. I think he's calling Tangent a normie, and they mistranslated it to be not me as well. He's looking at Tangent, he says, nor me. What am I supposed to think? He's talking some shit. Is Tangent a normie from your perspective? As we're 100 minutes into the podcast, Aggie, let's have a real serious discussion. Is Tangent a normie?
I feel like he's got to be the opposite, really. Just even nomadic people to begin with, they're really going against the grain. Maybe it's very natural in the total overall arcing existence of humanity, but if they're building houses and structures and giant bamboo stilts and everything like that, just gonna up and walk away from it. I feel like you gotta be pretty hardened, okay? I don't think normies are gonna say, oh, where's my 2-car garage and my white picket fence and my Swanson TV dinner?
That's right.
As I watch as I listen to the new radio mysteries or whatever they're doing these days. I feel like that's definitely the norm. I think, being someone who is so adventurous as to try to make the biggest stilts and then to such a degree they accidentally get stuck in the air for 10 years. I feel like it's really the opposite of the normie, in my opinion.
So Chopper needs to rescind his statement. I agree. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, this is ending with the invitation to play this Davy back fight game, and Usopp put some pieces together. They saw a pirate crew earlier who they were disorganized because they were seemingly missing their captain, and some giant sea monkeys literally drown and kill them and are laughing and clapping about it. That was pretty dark to include, but it's Usopp's like, hey, we can't play this game, we're gonna lose our companions. And that's how the volume ends. Aggie, do you have any thoughts on where this is going? What's going on here?
I'm glad that as we move forward from Jaya, we're not at any loss for monkeys, because
that's right.
Hamburg, an associate of Foxy, the silver fox, does appear to be some sort of monkey just based on the structure of his skull, as far as I can tell. This looks chimp-like. And Porch, I like how, first off, hottie, just my opinion.
That's fair.
Something about that mask and her sort of, what would I say? Just kind of, she's chill. She's chill. She's got a mask on, but it's really nothing. And she has some kind of looks like a cheerleader pom-pom style hair, but she's looking good. She got the, the cinch, sweatshirt around the waist. I don't, she's Foxy as far as I'm concerned. Whoa.
That's right.
But listen, you know what? Hot babes, giant monkeys, gambling. As far as I can tell, I think these Foxy pirates, they might be warming up to me. Me warming up to them, rather.
I would not be shocked if Foxy ends up being one of Eggy's favorite characters, folks. I mean, in the style of like a Wapole, maybe. You know, I think this is a character that will really speak to Eggy on some deeper level and be enjoyable, even if he's introduced kind of shooting a horse because he thinks hunting is fun. Like, I don't know if you hunt horses, brother, and even if you do, you shot it in the leg, so what kind of hunting work is that? Maybe he's bad at aiming, maybe it'll be an easy Davy back, whatever the hell. But
kind of looks like Unknown Hinson also, with like his sideburns, and he's got like the devil's lock, and then kind of like the pointy like the hair structure, and then kind of in the face.
I'm not gonna say Foxy has a very large nose and a tricky attitude, but Oda might say that. We'll have to see just how tricky he gets next volume, Eggy. I'm excited to get a full volume of Long Ring, Long Land next time. Anything else before we let everybody go today?
I feel like we have covered everything very thoroughly, in my opinion.
Yeah, Skypiea, they're in the middle. We had like 3 episodes in a row that were maybe 70 minutes, and now, once we get to the end, it's like these 100-minute episodes keep, naturally happening. I wish it wasn't this long, folks, but there's so much to get to. Gotta talk shit about Chopper saying normie. That's important.
That's it.
Anything to plug this week? I need to plug my new Letterboxd because I got banned last night. So go follow Jimmy and Simmy, or whatever the fuck. My name, but with the letters mixed up.
Well, are we gonna play this Eneru v Usopp in a live format, or is this gonna be just us practicing?
Honestly, you'll probably come over and we'll watch Survivor, and then I'll probably fall asleep and wake up at 3 a.m. and forget we were even gonna do anything.
Well, if you go to Yoker II on YouTube, you'll find the couch intro song, full audio, and if you love the sound of that, well, it gets played before every couch sponsored video and we're gonna be doing another one of those coming up here very soon. So if you got a crispy $100 bill and you want to request a sponsored video for the Simmy and Jimmy Treehouse channel, simmyandjimmybusiness@gmail.com, I do believe. You check out some of the other sponsored couch videos we've done on the Simmy and Jimmy Treehouse channel. See if you like the cut of that jib. If you got something to request, you know where to send it.
That's all we got, folks. See you next time for some Davy back fighting.